Skills of a coach. I highlighted 3 skills that a coach can have. The first is problem solving. This is being able to find ways around difficult situations and being creative enough to create new exercises, drills, or sessions to adjust to unexpected changes. Example: no equipment, too many participants, too few participants, or poor weather. So in order to do this, a coach needs to be creative. They need to have knowledge of the sport and skills. They need to be able to, so that they can alter things, but still make sure the drill is effective. An example of this could be a football coach. If one of their players get injured whilst playing, they need to find a replacement. But obviously, they can't just chuck anyone on. They need to problem solve. They need to think who will be the best to fulfill his role, what will be the best tactics from now on, that sort of thing. So if he's good at problem solving, he'll be able to implement the best substitute and the best tactic change. Organisation. This is being prepared and ready to carry out each session beforehand, being punctual, dressed appropriately and with the correct equipment, and knowing the timings of each drill and how the session will plan out. So this is all about, preparation beforehand. But being prepared, the coach will have confidence, and so will instruct with confidence and coach with confidence, which will make their session more effective. An example of this could be a multi-skills coach, because they're doing multi-skills. There's a lot of drills involved, and so they need to plan each drill to make sure they're effective and ensure the timings are all done so that they can fit each drill in. Say if they had a 1 hour time slot and 10 different drills, each drill would need to be, or if they had 10 drills, each drill would need to be 6 minutes long, otherwise it wouldn't fit. For this, you'd look at equipment available, or this would mean the more equipment that would be available, it would be effective / better sessions, and it will also be more enjoyable for the participants if it's well organised and well carried out. Analysing. This is analysing our superior knowledge of the skills being practiced and being able to improve the participants' ability to perform them. This means that understanding the behaviours of the athletes and being able to coach them to alter their technique accordingly. In order to analyse well, the coach needs to have knowledge of the skills of the individuals, of their techniques and their behaviours and the ideal techniques and behaviours, and also any analysing software that they may use. So for example, Dartfish, they need to know how to use that, how to analyse, how to use notation analysis. An example of this could be a diving coach, so as in Olympic diving into a pool, that kind of diving. So the diving coach will want to look at their technique of the dive and improve it specifically. So if they're not getting their legs in a certain position, they'll just say alter by tucking your legs in, pulling your head into your chest so you spin more, that sort of thing. As a result of this, their technique will be more effective and more cleaner, so that will earn them more points. Another example of analysing is also analysing tactics. Analysing can be used to change tactics. So in American football, if the coach realises a certain attacking play isn't working for them, they can change their tactics and make it more effective. So if they're not working with running the ball, they may look to throw the ball long instead, which will make them more ground and score them more points. Moving on to the next slide. An example of a coach is Ivan Lendl. He is a professional tennis coach who helped guide Andy Murray to a 2012 Olympic gold medal and 2013 Wimbledon title. His main skill as a coach is his ability to analyse a technique and correct it to benefit their performance. So he can look at, well, in this case, Andy Murray's technique, and he can improve it by saying, your backhand isn't quite right here, you're not twisting enough, you're not giving enough power through your shoulders, you need to do this to improve it so you can get that power through your shoulders. And you can also improve their tactics. So for example, he's using a drop shot too early on in the match or too early on in the rally, use it a bit later as a surprise shot, that sort of thing, to make his performance more effective. Um, Without this skill, or with this skill, obviously, it will improve their technique, which will improve their performance, and improve their tactics, which will again have the same effect. Without this technique, he wouldn't be able to see what's going wrong with the skills. He wouldn't be able to know what is going wrong in order to correct it. So he may start correcting the wrong thing. He may start trying to correct the strength of Andy Murray's instead of correcting his weaknesses, which would be counterproductive. Moving on, Luke Buckingham. Luke Buckingham is the head of Team BC and coaches the Team BC elite men's football team. One of his main skills is organisation, as he can not only coach the first team, but is also responsible for managing the entirety of the Team BC sports setup. There are a lot of teams in the Team BC sports setup. I don't know exactly how many, but a lot. Um, this means that there's a lot of things for him to organise, because he has to organise fixtures, has to allow each and every athlete from each sport to improve and to have different or the same opportunities. So that by being organised, he can get each fixture organised, make sure everyone is playing, everyone's enjoying their sport, and he can also help people improve. So the athletes are always getting better, which as a result, the Team BC setup gets better. That's the impact of this is, again, more fixtures means people enjoy it more, and more improvement means the performance will go up, and then so will the standard of Team BC. A downfall of this, however, is a lot of time and commitment is needed for this organisation. I'm sure he puts in a lot of time, not only in his hours but outside, phone calls, emails, that sort of thing, really working as hard as he can in order to make Team BC successful. Finally, Stuart Lancaster. Stuart Lancaster is the head coach of the England men's rugby team. His main skill is problem solving, as he was faced with the responsibility of developing a World Cup winning side, the World Cup being in 2015, out of a team with a lot of injuries and stuck in a string of consistently average performances. There are a lot of issues that Stuart Lancaster needs to contend with. There are the two main ones that I just read out. So they're a team with a lot of injuries, and they're stuck in a string of average performances, which is a bit of inner belief. So he needed to sort out the culture within the team. He needed to sort out how to keep players fit. There is a wide selection of players available. For example, in the back row, which only holds 3 positions, there are about 10 possible candidates that could easily play for England, and he has to select the best. The benefit of being a good problem solver means that he can select the best team to play and to perform, which will obviously mean they put in the best performance. He can develop players in time for the World Cup. For example, George Ford, he has started to give test caps to. He's a young 21-year-old rugby player, and he's given him experience in time for the World Cup next year. This means that obviously the whole team, not only individuals, but the whole team can peak by the World Cup, which will hopefully make them win it, which is his ultimate goal. And a final ways solve the problem of culture is through support by the fans. He's got the fans involved a lot, and the Twickenham Stadium, England's home ground, has become a fortress for them. They've won most of their matches there within the last 2-3 years since he has been in charge. A negative of this is if he wasn't be able to problem solve, he wouldn't be able to cope with the lots of injuries. He wouldn't be able to select the best team, so there'll be players left out that maybe should be in the team. He wouldn't be able to develop players, so come the World Cup, we'll be using older players just because they're more experienced, whereas younger players could have peaked at that time, but he didn't give them the chance. The final page on skills is exactly the same thing, so listed them order of importance. For example, the most important for Luke was organisation, and then problem solving, and then analysing. A similarity I highlighted was both Ivan and Luke had the second as for their problem solving. This is because they will still encounter problems. Ivan Lendl problems with his athletes' technique. Luke might involve problems with not being able to organise fixtures, and so they'll still encounter these problems on a daily basis, weekly basis, and we need to overcome them. That's why it's still important to them. A difference that I highlighted was they're all different for organisation. This is because each has a different level of responsibility for how organised they are. For example, Luke is in charge of a whole setup of sports teams, so organisation is a big thing for him because all the sports teams need to be organised. Stuart is in charge of a whole team, the England team, and so he needs to organise the whole team, he needs to organise what trainings they're going to do, that sort of thing, whereas Ivan is only responsible for one athlete at a time, therefore organisation isn't as important because he only has to organise one other person apart from himself. Moving on to qualities of a coach. So the first quality of a coach is their knowledge of skills and the sport that they coach. So this means understanding the correct technique of each skill and how to teach it, and also recognising weaknesses in their own team and improving on them, or recognising weaknesses in the opposition team and be able to exploit them by putting in appropriate tactics. As a result of this, they can teach effective skills, so the skills of each performer will be better, will be more textbook, and they'll be able to implement more effective tactics in order to win the competition. A way to improve this is, there are lots of ways to improve this for a coach actually. Through experience, just from coaching for a very long time, you pick up ways to coach, how to coach, different ways to play the game, that sort of thing. Through qualifications, so certain like a FA level 2 will give football coaches information on how to teach certain things, so how to teach them how to dribble, that sort of thing. Through trial and error, so simply, does this work, does this not work, I'll start doing the one that does work. And finally, through working with other coaches, so picking up how they teach and implementing it within their sessions. Moving on is knowledge of laws. So this is knowing all of the legislation, rules and regulations associated within their sport, understand the health and safety involved within the sport, and knowledge and development of rule changes. So the main one is just developments, like so if there's different rules changed, for example in cricket with the death of Phil Hughes, they may change the rules on headgear being worn, and so coaches need to be aware of this, and so that they don't break those rules. It also means that the equipment is certified by an official governing body, and so it's safe to use. A way to improve this is through compulsory or additional coaching workshops that will keep them updated on differences, and through meetings or from official websites or emails, that sort of thing, from official governing bodies. The last one, understanding the physical needs of the participant. This means understanding their ability, or as you can read down there, this comes into three main areas. The athlete's ability or fitness, if they are injured or not, or if they are disabled. A way to improve this, the knowledge of the physical needs of the participants, is through a medical screen or questionnaire before the participants take part, so they know how able-bodied they are, and also through coaching workshops that will look at how to adapt sessions for the disabled. 3 examples of where the qualities of a coach will come into play. Andy Flower is the former director of cricket and head coach of the England cricket team. One of his main qualities was his knowledge of cricket and the skills associated with it. This meant that he could basically just improve the skills of his athletes, so their batting, bowling, fielding, wicket-keeping ability, which overall affects the overall performance of the team, so individual and team performance. A negative of not having this would be that they basically wouldn't improve, as he would not be able to teach the correct skill because he simply would not know it himself. And so how can he share his knowledge of the skill that he has no knowledge of? So that's Andy Flower.